The engine is your basic two halves that you just glue together. Now, being an AMT kid, the fit is less than good. Now, the goal here isn't really to remove material, but really all I want to do is just make everything flat so all the pieces sit flush. And believe me when I say I didn't want to remove material, but I had to remove a lot of material to make sure every mating surface was nice and flat. Now, on the parts that are visible, like the tranny pan and the bell housing, it is okay to remove material, just enough to get rid of the seams. As there is nothing that's going to glue to them, there's going to be no ugly gaps that we're going to have to fill, so feel free to remove as much material as needed just to close up those seams. Now the block, the heads, the intake, and the oil pan all get painted the same color, so I'm just going to assemble them all now just to make painting easier. I'll be doing the same with the accessories, so I'm going to glue in the power steering pump and the AC compressor. I'm just going to paint everything in a semi-gloss black. I plan to be using some AC hoses from another kit, so I want the high and low pressure ports clocked correctly on this. Now the valve covers, they got painted in a gloss black, and believe it or not, but there is a left and a right, so pay attention when you install these. To match the valve covers, the timing cover also got painted in that same gloss black. And to break up all this black, I painted the water pump in an aluminium color. The exhaust manifolds, they had almost nothing to register them and hold them in place on the head. So I'm just going to drill them out and pin them in place. And as always, for the pen, I'm just going to use a staple. Now to match these, I also have corresponding holes I drilled in the block earlier. Now, as these are usually cast iron, I just stippled on some of that metallic gray paint. I was very random and sporadic with this, and I did not want full coverage. And to finish it off, I'm just going to do a very, and I do mean very, light dry brushing of some rust color. And forgive me, because for some reason, I couldn't get this to focus on what I was actually looking at. Now, if you do it right, you'll have what looks like pitting and just very small hints of rust. And I do wholeheartedly believe that these would stay in place, even if I didn't use any glue. what engine would be complete without running some plug wires. AC Delco is usually blue, so I'm going to run some blue plug wires. Now these will all just route back to a distributor that I had previously drilled out off camera. Now there wasn't a lot of room, so I had to drill those undersized, and to make up for that I'm just going to remove a bit of the sheathing off these wires here. And dipping them in just a little bit of super glue is all we need to hold them in place. And I'm just going to do this all 6 more times and then just put another coat of blue paint on it. Now while that was drying, I did just a little bit of silver dry brush to all the accessories just to get all the highlights to come out. Now, if you guys have watched any other video I built that has an engine, you've seen me run plug wires, so I didn't waste a lot of time doing that here. Now, while I do agree that this does not look as good as the pre-made distributors I usually buy, it's all I had handy, so it's what I worked with. I was kind of excited to dive into this engine that I had completely forgot to mask off and paint the transmission. So I'm just going to knock that out here real quick with some hand painting. And if you'll look closely, you'll see that I had also painted the oil filter. And as you guessed it, AC Delco blue. I keep a paint lid handy just to put a little bit of cleaner in, and that's what I'll clean all my hand brushes with. I hadn't painted it in a while, so it all evaporated. For some reason, it all separated by color. I've never let it run dry before, so I don't know. So that was kind of weird. Now for the interior, I'm just going to paint that all in some Tamiya dull red. Now to darken it up just a little bit further, I'm just going to paint this over the bare black plastic. Just like any other paint that we do, we're just going to do a very fine mist coat and then just build it up in thin layers from there. Now pay attention to the background, because we are now on layer 5. Even with my exhaust fan on, rattle cans just have so much overspray and so much waste. Now once this dries and all that sheen is gone, this is a perfect match. Now while almost all of this is red, I just went and did a little bit of black accent on the door controls and the vents. Oh dear, that paint's not dry. I'll come back to this later so I don't get fingerprints all in it. Now I left the gauge cluster itself in the factory cast black. Those of you that are familiar with these trucks, you'll know that that is an almost perfect match for the cheap plastic that GM had used in these trucks. Now if you want to get a bit more detailed than me, everything that is plastic is an actual red color. Now the carpet, some of the door panel, and the seats, they're actually a different shade of maroon. There's all up maybe 3 or 4 different shades of red that make up this interior. I just kept it simple. That's it on this one though, guys. Happy 4th of July. I'll see you on the next one. We're going to be knocking out the chassis next. I'm going to show you guys how to lower this thing.